What's going on, my friends? This is Jack, and welcome to It Pays to Write, a show where we break down simple writing skills and systems that can help you build digital leverage and level up in your career, business, personal brand, and more. Whether you're a remote 9-to-5er, freelancer, founder, or aspiring writer, we've got something here for you. Let's dive in. Our guest today on It Pays to Write is Lauren Gibson. Lauren is an expert email marketer and ghostwriter for agency founders and coaches. And like so many guests we've had on the show, is building her brand, audience, and business with her incredible writing on LinkedIn. Lauren has such an amazing background that ranges from bootstrapped world travel all over the globe to getting her MBA from Georgetown. And then a quick left turn, she goes deep into crypto and Web3, where she actually ended up working with the co-founder of Ethereum, Joe Lubin. She now runs an awesome newsletter called Connections to help others grow their brands and communities online. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest, Lauren Gibson. All right, what's up, everybody? I am super stoked today. I have been a fan of our guest work on LinkedIn for a while now, and I feel like she is one of the creators I've followed who has built this almost universe around her brands. Like you could map it to a mood board and it would like fit perfectly. And I want to ask her if she's done that. But first, I just want to introduce our guest today, Lauren Gibson. So Lauren, tell us who you are and what kind of fun projects you're working on right now. What do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Jack, for the really kind intro. So I am an email marketer currently, but I really didn't ever start that way. I started actually in, I don't know, the jungle on a mattress. Like basically, I feel like I did everything that a lot of people have their existential midlife crisis in, like really early. So I did the nomad life really early in my career, where I taught English and I worked in the nonprofit space internationally in Tunisia and Egypt, and I traveled all over Europe. But I realized that I actually wanted to impact the world in a new way. And that way happened to be blockchain technology. So I started studying about blockchain and crypto, everything Web3. And I came back to the US to basically focus on this technology with no coding, no technical experience. So so I realized I needed to get into the finance space. Um, and and I actually worked for like a fintech company where I was just kind of like a customer service agent, actually working also as a project manager from my English teaching experience. And then the story is the pandemic hit, and I just needed to get into this industry somehow. So I was applying to a couple, actually just only applied to two MBA programs, and one of them I got in after I wrote an additional essay for that university, because I really, really wanted to not be doing the job that I was doing. And that writing, as the name of this call, of the name, like the name of this podcast is called, like that helped me get into the industry I wanted to get into. So it does pay to write, right? So I got into Georgetown University because I wrote an additional essay that was totally uncalled for when I was on the wait list. And my writing has really stemmed from a lot of different parts of my life that we can get into. I have 15 journals right now, since for like 15 years I've been writing. And that is like pushed me to be in the position where I'm in now, which is that I actually have my own business where everything I loved about Web3, about decentralization, ownership, I realized that I did not need that technology to embody that and to live that in my life. And that is why I decided to start my own business, which has been a whirlwind for sure. And right now I'm here sitting with you, as I recognize the importance of writing and getting on podcasts like this, to promote your brand and to get yourself out there, as I do believe this is the future of work. And that is a lot of what I talk about on LinkedIn.
Lauren, that is a heck of an intro for yourself. And I think everybody who just heard that will be like, yeah, she's like the perfect fit mission statement for this show with everything that you have done. And one thing I want to get into, because I knew you were at Georgetown, but the story about you writing an extra essay when you're on the wait list is super compelling. And before we get into your brand and what you're creating, the clients that you're working with and everything else, tell us about what that second essay was, what spurred you to write it, and what did you put in there? Because it sounds like that was a big part of you getting accepted, right?
Absolutely. So Georgetown asked for 2 essays in the initial uh, application, and the 2 essays I did kind of story driven about who I am, really. But I realized that what was missing was the connection of me talking about why I was entering blockchain technology. So it was a lot of backstory that they were asking about. And I mean, my first essay, I really do think it was brilliant because it was me. It was about me. It was talking about me, just writing about how I had to navigate Egypt without like a phone signal, without like Google Maps, and I had to go to this internship every single day, navigating a taxi driver to get there, without like trying to remember the direction every single day, and just like one of the main times that like one of the first times that that happened. And I've navigated so much of my life of just without a compass, so to say. And so that was a great introduction to who I am, but I was trying to position myself to a world-class MBA program to say that I actually am moving away from this international affairs lifestyle and moving into blockchain technology, which I wanted to work in. So I realized that there was just something missing from me. There was a lot of the story, there was a lot of the reason why I got into at least to have the interview, which is one of the main things you want to do is at least have an interview. But I realized that I needed to talk more about my desire to be in blockchain technology. So I actually took my other essay, which I applied to Cornell and was also waitlisted. And for some reason, I didn't want to write an additional essay to Cornell. I think I actually wrote in my journal, no joke, that I was going to get into Georgetown University like a year and a half prior. So I
Love it.
do believe words have power. And although I didn't want to be in the MBA program, I wanted to be in the School of Foreign Service. But I do believe that everything that I do write in my journal, it eventually comes true, and that words do have so much power. I actually have a quote on my door, which says, "Words are a form of action capable of influencing change." And this is by Ingrid Bingus. I can tell you that right after, but
Love that.
yeah, but I feel it's so powerful, and it's why I actually write on LinkedIn so consistently as well, because it is a way for people to feel you and to get to know you without being in the room with you.
That's so powerful. And I just think that's such an incredible use case for the 40 to 100 plus things that writing can make you capable of doing is like getting you into like a world class, internationally renowned MBA program at Georgetown. And here's what I want to jump into next. I think it's really interesting. So you got into the MBA program, you did that, you got out. What was the first job, first gig, internship? What did that look like getting into that before we get into your, self-employment and the business you're working on now?
Yeah. So, well, funny story. I worked for the co-founder of Ethereum, the cryptocurrency.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that was
Dang.
my,
So you went
yeah,
from no fintech experience,
literally.
international explorer, to going
Yes.
to like the second biggest coin out there. That's
Yes.
crazy. That's
Every
cool.
2 weeks, I was in this call with Joe Lubin, the guy who funded
Whoa.
Vitalik Buterin. And
Wow.
I was reporting on the research I was doing for this DeFi coin that had to deal with accounts receivable. So that was the connection. So I'm all about connections. So I worked in a fintech company where I was doing customer service and project management for a client training program for accounts receivable software. And somehow I met a Georgetown grad, so Georgetown MBA, who graduated like 95, the year I was born, that needed someone who knew accounts receivables with an interest in blockchain. So I wrote to him that I wanted to speak with him, and I fully believe in the power of like connection and networking, and that is like one of the reasons why I got that internship was because I was just trying to connect with people on LinkedIn. So any person who's trying to get a job or trying to get into college or in a school in a top MBA program, I always recommend them just to be on LinkedIn and you don't have to actually post content, but you do have to reach out to people and be sincere and try to get to know them and offer your help or your assistance, even if you don't think that you can provide anything. But that is one way just to open the doors for possibility for future engagement with that person. And so my first role from no blockchain experience was to work for Joe Lubin, and I really feel like I made that happen because I was writing in my journal, and by writing it you're really reminding yourself of it. So I was writing myself in my journal about what I was learning about blockchain. I was attending these online events because it was the pandemic 2020, so I was attending a lot of online events that where I was learning about blockchain at IBM and FedEx and Walmart, a lot of these companies that did employ IBM. But I worked there, and I got a little jaded, to be honest. And like with the whole process of working for that company, and I realized that, like I actually decided to just continue with it because I spent so much of my effort trying to be in this space. But eventually, I pivoted out of it after I did the whole NFT thing and real estate metaverse. Like I kind of did all of Web3, and I realized, this connection, like I can do that in my own way. So that is the story there.
That's wild. So at what point, because I think there's so many people here that are in a lot of different places. Some of them are thinking like, yes, I want to gain marketing or digital writing as a skill that I can use outside of work, whether it's like gain some freelance clients, build their personal brand or whatever. Digital products, maybe do some like, writing on the side. And then there's people out there who are literally looking for an escape hatch of like, I am done with this industry, my day job. I just need
Yeah.
to change and want to do something else for a while. What was that moment like? And I love that you're a journaler because I'm sure you wrote this all out for yourself. What was that jump like, and the writing and the reasoning behind like, you know what? I committed years of this path, but it's not for me. And I think this is me embodying my like kind of more like free spirited and forward thinking view of what the world's going to become. Cause it's
Yeah.
almost like you're taking the ideas of decentralization, blockchain, Web3, kind of like democratization of creation in so many ways to people. Tell me what that process and like kind of what you were thinking through, conversations you were having with people, what you were journaling about, how you came to that decision to make the jump.
You got it exactly right, Jack. I saw the ethos and the ideas behind Web3 as not necessarily needed to connect to the technology. Anyone can take ownership of their life just by accepting who they are and doing the things necessary every day to be the best person you want to be. You don't necessarily have to have like a MetaMask wallet and say that I'm my own bank when you may just be sending funds to a place that you have no idea, and and then your money's gone. It's hilarious. But yeah, so I realized that I was more attracted to the story of Web3 rather than like what the technology could actually do. And that is and so I continued on that path where I was still after that internship. I actually worked full time for that internship, and then And then it's just a long story, but like the person that they hired for a CEO actually didn't want me to be there anymore because I was still going to my MBA, and they only wanted someone who was full time, only someone who could work 80-hour weeks. And I realized that was my first like startup experience to realize like what a startup really wanted out of a person. It wasn't just like, hey, we can experiment. It's like, hey, we're going to take up all your time to make this $1 million company. And of course, that company totally failed. Afterwards, so many
My
failed
gosh.
startups I've worked for. Um, yeah, so I would say that I was still recruiting in Web3 because I spent a couple years of my time investing in it. And I took that time to not learn more though, but to learn more about what I wanted and what I desired. So when I got to a point of learning about Web3 and I had these experiences that were very negative in my career and I didn't want to learn more, I instead learned something different, which was more about myself and more about these concepts of ownership and decentralization and self improvement and concepts that I realized were very important to me long term because I I had a pretty severe history of depression when I was younger. And it was me pushing myself to get into Web3 and blockchain and pushing myself to get into Georgetown that actually helped me see the possibility of life outside of kind of like sad glasses all the time. And I decided to spend some time uh, in my own bubble and figuring out myself. But of course, during that time, when you are in that time of figuring yourself out, it isn't something that you feel like is you don't feel like you're moving because you're just maybe repeating the same things again and again and trying to figure it out every single day. What is the thing? But I think after you ask yourself that question so many times and you get yourself tired of trying to find the answer to something, the answer to your problems, the answer to who you are, the answer to the existential questions that we have about life, you finally realize, you know what? I'm just tired of asking these questions, and maybe I will never know. And that is the point of it.
Hmm.
So I remember during that time listening a lot to Alan Watts quotes, who would say, and I would just try to understand and understand and understand, but really he would just say it's just, as we hear, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. It's about what you're going through right now. And so I did have all these experiences in my past of traveling to 44 countries and really diving deep into my own life to understand who I want to be and what I want to put out there in the world. And I don't think that time is lost, even though it took me what I feel like more years because I personally set myself back with thinking in a negative viewpoint. And I take full ownership and responsibility for that. And this is also why I am trying to write more on LinkedIn because I do want to put a voice to this feeling that I think many people could have in their life, that they don't have it all figured out, that they've had problems that they can never recover from. The truth is, like, the only thing we have right now, and this is also a quote from Ram Dass, is like right now, the present moment. The present moment is all we have. And this is what I am trying to embody every day while still making some money from it. And what I mean by that is realizing that I do personally want to have a better life, and so to do that, I need to work on something that is going to be of value to people that I can give out there into the world. And so that is why and eventually, after several years of trying to think about starting a business, eventually I told myself, now is the time. I've experimented enough. And on January 1st of this year, I announced on LinkedIn that I was going to be taking on 3 pro bono clients. And I took those people on for 2 to 3 months, and I have just been closing a new client every month since February. And it's been really a great experience because it does feel very new to me, but it also feels like I'm finally embodying the person that I have always wanted to be and that has always been there.
I love that. Man, so many great things you just highlighted. Like, A, taking time and space to figure out what you want and realizing that that is not always wasted time. There have been so many points in my life where I felt like I was just, I think the analogy that I use is like, you're walking through this like dark house and it is just like blackout dark, middle of the night, and you can't see anything and you're just bumping into furniture. And you have no orientation of like, am I in the living room? Is there an upstairs? Is there a downstairs? Like you're getting sense of like what space you're in. And I felt like that was my entire 20s. I was just like bumping into furniture trying to make sense of a map or something in my mind.
Yeah.
And then like you kind of have these moments of like, okay, there's a couch over here. I think there's like a mirror or a television or something like on this wall. I know that I bumped into a dresser and like hurt my knee right here. And you kind of start seeing like all of these experiences in your career fit together and how it gets you to the next thing. And I think that's so important for people to remember is whatever you're in the middle of right now, your day job or side project, or maybe like some cool or weird hobby you have or community that you're into, like doesn't fit the full puzzle piece right now. And this sounds like cliche wisdom, I guess, but it's like you're gonna know it might be a month or it might be a year. You're gonna be like, oh, that's why those things happened or why I was interested in those things. And like you outlined so perfectly that those core pieces of you had been there all along. It was just looking for, like, the vocabulary and the vision and the outlet to funnel, like, those
Mm.
skills and that energy that you had into this, and,
I
yeah, I
find
think
that,
yeah, go
yeah,
for it.
just so interesting that you see it as, yeah, when you're growing up, let's say you grow up and you're trying to really just feel around in the dark of you of your mind, and you have, yeah, oh, there's a dresser there. Oh, there's this thought. There's this belief that I have, and I'm feeling around and I'm feeling whether even if I want to keep this stressor, this belief there, or if I don't. So, but it's still very intangible, and so I think the idea that you're really in a dark room just feeling around is a great analogy there.
Yeah, and I think too, over time, it's got, like, a dimmer and the lights start to come up a little
Yeah,
bit, and you start to gain a sense, and it sounds like that's where you got to when you put in your notice and you were like, "I'm gonna make the leap for myself." I don't know. I think it's so awesome because I think I've been following you since probably close to the beginning of your journey, I want to say. I don't remember like how the algorithmic gods of LinkedIn like brought you into my feed,
totally. I
but I
know.
feel like it was early. I feel like it was early when you were talking about some of your recent history in the workforce and like how you got here. And like I want to drill into some like practical stuff for people because I think this is so important for anybody. And once again, people you don't have to leave your day jobs because you're listening to this conversation from Lauren and I. If
No,
anything, keep it. Yeah, if
yeah,
anything, keep it and then dip
do
your
something on the
toes
side. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Take a couple hours on the weekend or 20 minutes, before your work day or whatever.
I
But
do have, something, yeah, like, I would highly recommend to people. Have you heard of The Artist's Way?
yes.
Yes.
Who wrote? Because it was a book, right?
Yes.
Who
So
wrote
it's
The
like a
Artist's Way?
workbook.
Okay.
So every day or every week, you're supposed to be, doing, like, something that kind of, like, takes you out
Yes.
of your thought process. And so, yeah, it was Julia Cameron, and she was, I believe, uh, like a director in like plays. So she was like a screenwriter and a director for for plays in like New York City.
Super cool.
Yeah, and so she takes you through this 12-week process of basically getting your voice out there. And one of the reasons why I read and I, like, did this book was because I actually heard it referenced from business people like Cody Sanchez, Tim Ferriss, Noah Kagan from AppSumo. These people said that this book, which is called The Artist's Way, right? These are business people, and they said that this book helped them with their business. So the only requirement from this book, like for the 12 weeks that you're doing it, 3 months, is that you write every single day 3 pages a day. And so I did that actually with my, like, Remarkable tablet, which I have here, because I didn't wanna, like, write, like, a full book, and I wanted to keep it somehow. Because that's another thing, like, all my, all my journals are physical, and I worry, what could happen, right? So, yeah, so the artist way, like, the only thing is you have to write every single day for for basically 12 weeks, and it's a really difficult because you're going through the process of like thinking while like writing.
Mm,
And at a certain point you're just writing, you're like, you could even just write, I don't know what I'm writing, I don't know what I'm thinking about, I don't know, but then boom, another thought will come to your head, because that's just how thoughts are, they just pop off, right? We learn in meditation that thoughts w- will just happen. You can't ever stop thoughts. Even like monks who go to like level 100 with meditation,
mhm, mhm,
you can't. They tell you that you can't stop thoughts, but you just let them pass by. And so this is just teaching you to really be able to even like morph your thoughts as you're writing, because the process of writing from like physically writing from, your hand to a paper or even a digital paper like I use, it's a process where you can't think on something else because you're physically moving a hand, and your eyes are paying attention to the piece of paper.
mhm,
And this is another reason why I do love writing when I can, because your focus is only on that.
mhm, mhm. You can't be sure you can be listening to something and taking notes like we all
Mhm.
did in, school or lectures or a podcast or a YouTube video or whatever. But like you said, you have to be fully focused on taking down that idea as it's happening as you're gaining it. And this is a super interesting thing I want to ask you about, and like getting to the meat and potatoes of like practically how you jumped into this transition of like LinkedIn. Like, so I kind of want to get a gauge of where you started. Like, did you have an active LinkedIn account? How many people were in your community? How many followers or connections did you have? And then where did those 3 pro bono clients come from? Because it sounds like that's what got the referrals in the pipeline rolling.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's the Steve Jobs quote, right? That you can only piece it together looking backwards. You can't like
Mm,
connect the dots looking forwards. And so at the time, I had no idea. I'm just like throwing spaghetti at the wall for like a year, I feel like. Um, I just followed some clues which were told to me, including the fact that people who were much higher up than me in various like employee positions, for example, telling me, "Lauren, I love your writing." Like business owners, friends of my parents who are business owners, um, people that I would respect, they would always say that I love your writing. So that
mm.
was one thing.
And just so everybody knows
Yeah.
here, so this was while you were still employed. You decided to start writing online to kind of like dip your toes in.
Yeah, if I
Okay.
can yeah, no. So the the timeline of it
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
that I was working in Web3 for a year after I graduated from my MBA.
Right. Okay.
And I was working in the NFT space. I did a little bit of contract work in the metaverse space, but I inevitably got a sales position in an NFT infrastructure company. So I was laid off from that position
Gotcha. Okay.
because half of the company was laid off because the NFT market,
I
whew,
know. I
terrible,
know.
right? So they didn't need anyone in sales or marketing anymore because no one was buying NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it as a sign that I needed to do something, but it was not yet then.
Mm,
I was still struggling with trying to apply to positions and no one wanting to work with me because I did not want to work in Web3 anymore.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
I was trying to apply to more Web2 or AI even positions, or even an entry level sales position while I was 27 instead of being an entry level, when you're more like 22 or 23. So it was very difficult for me to even get that kind of job. And so that was very frustrating for me, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just moved back home to Jacksonville, Florida, where I'm from. And I moved back here because I knew that I wanted to like focus on my business. This was the thought process, but I had no business. I just felt that I needed to leave Washington D.C. because there was a lot going on there, and I realized that I wasn't looking to actually enjoy my life at that point. I don't know how to say it. Like I really wanted to make myself a better person and to work on myself. So I
Mm-hmm.
came back to Jacksonville at the same time that I'd lost my job.
Okay.
And so there was another kind of like reflection period there that I was going through. I was applying to jobs, realizing I didn't want to work in Web3. What do I actually do? Do I actually start this business that I wanted to go through? Someone connected me to a contract position that I started working for, and I was doing like 20 hours a week for that. They ended up not paying me for months and months, and actually even almost a year until I kind of had to threaten them.
Mm,
And I actually never recovered all of it, but I at least recovered some.
that's awful.
Yeah, it really is. But then at that time, I realized, wow, I'm working 20 hours a week for this company, and the fact is, this is not no not everyone can say this, but I was financially okay
Mm-hmm.
because I invested in cryptocurrency.
That's
And
great.
so I realized that I was just telling this like lie to myself that I didn't have the stability when I actually did. And so I realized, you know what? I wanted to get into Web3 and crypto because I wanted to make money so I could live my life in my own way. So I realized I achieved that actually, but it took me some time for me to actualize that because a lot of the outside perspective is you don't have a job. Just you can't even get a new job, right? So that's a lot of the outside perspective, but the inside perspective that took me time to realize, and I'm getting to this, where I worked from October of 2023 to about March of 2024, and I was like, you know what, I'm over this, and that's when I discovered that book, The Artist's Way, and I I got the book and I just started. And the same week that I started that book and I started writing, so the next day I started writing on LinkedIn because people told me that they liked my writing. And one person who was a senior VP of a top 4 consulting firm who wanted to give me a job the week after I lost my job, he was like, "I'm going to find a job for you." And I was like, "Great. Like I can get some consultant money, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And I had been waiting for that. And I remember he had been telling me, I liked your writing when you were writing about blockchain. Have this ability to synthesize these complex topics. So I leaned into that and I started writing in my remarkable tablet like the second week of March. I also joined in a private sort of like I was networking a lot during this time just to try to figure out what other people were doing, and I found a couple people who were Georgetown solopreneurs, and I spoke with them and they all had their own businesses. One of them is a ghostwriter on LinkedIn and X, and he was making like between 20 to 30K a month. So that was another reason where I realized, wow, like maybe I should start a business like that.
Mm,
um, and so in March, so a lot of this is like all the connections that were happening around the same time. I joined that group. I realized like, oh man, like starting a business writing is a great idea. It pays to write. And
mhm,
then I started writing because of this book, The Artist's Way, and that inspired me to write on LinkedIn every single day. And I started challenging myself to do that. And I stopped writing in the book, but I kept writing on LinkedIn, and I kept writing for 120 days every single day. In the first month, I was writing twice a day. And also the first week of that book, I decided I'm no longer going to be working for free, especially because I'm learning that other people are earning so much money to do what they really enjoy, like writing. So that was the first process of me getting my voice out there in the world, and I was just writing literally anything. And I was talking about the future of work because I was laid off, because I was seeing people who were my peers earn all this money, being able to just like start anything. I did not start my business yet. What helped me actually was starting to write and then realizing, okay, what I've heard a lot about is to start a newsletter. So I started a newsletter, which I had a different name for it before, and it was all about the future of work. And I was writing in that every single week. And I started an online connection hour, as I called it, the connection power hour. I think around the same time that we met,
mhm.
at least on LinkedIn. And I started doing I started doing 10 weeks of online networking where I would host, uh, usually between like 8 and 13 people would join. And I ended up having 99 people join these online networking hours. And I actually did that because that person from the VP that I mentioned of the big four company said, you've been writing on LinkedIn all this time, and I now know the perfect role for you. And you're going to be the head of communications for 30,000 people at this big company.
Whoa.
Yes. And this, Jack, was August like 3rd of last year. And
Mhm,
it's been 2 years since I had first heard that he was going to get me something
mhm.
until a year later when he actually had a role because he knew how great I was. And then a year, and then that next year was layoffs, Trump presidency, the world is exploding, tariffs, all these consultant companies laying off so many workers. Like a lot of Georgetown folks I know have been reaching out to me because they've been laid off from Microsoft, EY, Amazon. The list goes on. These people who are now having sometimes to go get a PhD because maybe they were looking for that visa because
Mhm.
they were from India or something. So I'm seeing it like it happen in real time of these well-educated people not be able to get a job even though we spent all this money on getting on
And
working.
time and
Yes.
energy and late nights in
Yes.
the library. Yeah.
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 Not as much as that in the MBA program, I'll say that.
Okay. All
There's
right.
a lot
Fair
more
enough.
like
Still a lot of work and
drinking.
time and money. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. You know it. So I realized, like all of this is just pointing me to the fact that I really need to start something. And so I started something, but it was not monetized initially. It was me starting my own community where I held 100 people in online connection hours for 10 weeks. And I realized I didn't want to monetize that. I thought if I was going to create a community, I actually needed to create a community of myself first. So this is a lot of like going back and forth and going in these circles. But I realized if I were to embody this person that was going to one day have a community, and one day have like recurring YouTube videos, which I'm working on, and recurring newsletter and all of this, I would need to do what I was talking about, which was I was talking about the future of work is working for yourself because people much smarter than me, like Naval Ravikant, says that in 20 years, like we're all going to be working for ourselves. So I'm like, oh my God, like I guess I got to start right now because I couldn't get a job. I was seeing all these other people lose their job and not get a job. And then they come to me and they tell me the exact same story that I was saying about that like VP of consultant guy. I know several people who have had the exact same experience where they've been waiting months and months and a year, like, like still applying to roles. The
Mm-hmm.
difference is that I like started applying to roles for 2 months and then I stopped. And then I started again for another 2 months, basically around like May, June of last year. And then I stopped because that's when I fully recognized I did have enough income to support myself. And then towards the end of 2024, I realized, you know what? Like, if I don't want to monetize this community, I'm going to need to monetize something. And so I'd been ignoring all of the business advice for way too long. I've been following so many business content creators and business people, right? And what they say is that if you want to start a business, the best business to start is a service business. So I cut down my ego and um, it's not like I was running out of funds, but I just didn't want to take out more money from like my investments. Like I
Mm-hmm.
realized, you know what? I'm not going to live off of my investments. Like it's not going to happen. I'm going to need to make money eventually. So I was like dwindling down on my savings, and that's when I decided I just need to do this. I need to start a business, and it needs to be a service business. And I'm gonna just gonna make it about newsletters or email because I've been really enjoying that. I really enjoy the process of this like one-on-one connection that you have with someone over email. I like that it's almost like a journal in a way, and it's not connected to trends. It's like once you have someone's email, you know that you're going to like be getting in their inbox as long as you're following certain like spam, like anti-spam policies. And so that's the story of how I started my business from January 1st and also the 2 years prior. Did I answer your
Yeah,
questions?
that's amazing. Yeah, having that timeline is so helpful. And like you said, there was kind of a lot of circling back to these signals and seeing like,
Uh-huh.
okay, this is inevitably the direction I want to go in. And it was both kind of the journey you were on and then what you were seeing globally, like changes and stuff. And I can
Yeah.
totally empathize with you. I mean, last year and the year prior, I saw a lot of friends were starting to get laid off from their jobs.
Mm.
And I had already started running with this concept of it pays to write. I kind of like launched a blog because I got to start in blogging. I was trying to do the blogging and SEO thing because that's what I've been like doing the longest
Yeah.
besides like social content. And then I saw some, guys who I followed who were ghostwriters, which is what I've been doing since, I don't know, I was a college internship in like 2009. And I was like, maybe there's something
Nice.
to be said for this. Came on LinkedIn, started writing, loved the people and community on there and kind of stuck
Me
around.
too.
But yeah, like I totally agree with you that I think that it scares me how there's still a massive percentage of the world that does not realize that we're all going to be replaceable by
Yeah.
LLMs. And that writing was on the wall for me. I started using them in 2021 because a friend recommended me to, I think there's still Jasper AI, like an AI writing
Nice.
software. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah. And
And
started
there's
using
more
them.
popping up all the time. You probably
Oh, it's
get like
crazy.
people in your DMs from India, from like wherever, and they're just
Yeah, like
making a
software I've
new.
never even heard of, and it's just
Yeah,
like, hey, we spun this up. Do you want to test
right.
it? Yeah, I'm like, I guess, but who are you? But maybe
Yes.
I don't know. But yeah, like I totally agree with you on that philosophy of we're already seeing that writing on the wall of you're not going to have security in a job like you
Yeah.
used to. You have to build something for yourself. Like I felt compelled to help other people do that because I think writing is kind of the mother skill or the skill lever that kind of moves all things in a more positive direction in like your business and your personal life too. And yeah, I totally get it. And I'm so glad that, you started sharing your story on here and your experience and helping people in all the ways you are. And that's what I want to. So for people who are listening to this who are like, okay, like, Lauren's had this really cool story. She's jumped industries. Writing's the skill that gave her the ability to be able to do these things. It opened up opportunities like even having a contact at a big four consulting firm, you had like people coming out of the woodworks being like, we love your writing. Those are people
Yeah.
who will hand you opportunities. And the reason you
My
got
mom's
those.
financial advisor, I recently wrote about, like, my mom's financial advisor told her during one of their meetings, like, "Oh, your stocks are up. Oh, by the way, I love your daughter's LinkedIn post." It's
It's
like
amazing.
this guy never likes anything. And so, like, I'm also now kind of immune almost to like impressions, like, because I
Mhm.
just don't know who is really seeing it.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, you're just putting it out there in the void.
Yeah, that's honestly incredible. And so like and jumping back into kind of like the timeline. So we get
Right.
these 3 pro bono
Yeah.
clients. You're writing for them. You're doing email like services for them. They have existing lists. Do they have existing lists? Or are you working on list growth with them too?
These pro bono clients were fully new. Two of them were super early stage pre-seed startups, and one of them is like has pivoted quite a bit of times and was trying to like find some traction. So it was fresh ground for me, and that was really good to start off with because they were also not familiar with anything, and I was just a little bit more familiar with email marketing service providers, so it gave me some time to like play around in some other people's environment, so to say, and think of le- uh, some other ideas that I could add on to my offer.
Okay, that's awesome. And were they referrals from people who you knew, or did they find you through content or kind of like your content on LinkedIn or a mix of both?
They found me through that LinkedIn post. I
That's
immediately got those
unbelievable.
3 people from I got one other person, but it just wasn't a good fit. I just have no idea what his business was really. He
He
just
might not
needed
even know.
yes, he needed someone to figure it out.
Oh my gosh. He needed some time and space to be like, yeah, what is this about anyways? Who am I helping with this?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was definitely, hey, if you're
you
in client
understand
services
that.
long enough, you meet those
Yes.
people who are like, well, I've got this thing, and I also have this thing that's totally
Right.
unrelated, and then I have this product version of this other idea, and
And
you're like,
can
no,
you
no, no, no,
connect the
no.
dots?
Yes, and
It's
it's like,
not what
no,
I
no
do.
dots are connecting.
Yeah.
It's not a drawing or a
Right.
constellation. It's literally just
It's a,
scribbles.
like, 5D reality.
I know you're totally right. So that's so cool. So off of that one post, you got the pro bono clients, and then kind of since then, what has been filling your marketing funnel or your pipeline? Like, how have you gotten the clients that you're working with today? What do they
Yeah.
do? I would love to hear about some of the nuts and bolts of your businesses too, to give people an idea of like,
Yeah.
how do you do deliverables? How do you package things? How do you price? So let's start with the clients first. Where have the most recent ones come from? That you're working with, and then kind of what does your offer look like?
Yeah. All so most of my clients have come from my LinkedIn content. One of them came from Upwork, and I, like, have tried Upwork, and I think it's been good, but I realized I just wanted to, like I just realized I just need to hone in on LinkedIn because there's a lot of opportunity there, especially with the connections that I've made. And I also forgot to tell you that when I started writing on LinkedIn more consistently back in March of 2024, I had 1,600 followers about. And I also started writing because I started getting like really massive like upticks in impressions for my random thoughts. And so that's why I started this, like, you know what, I'm just going to start 120 days to write every day, 'cause I thought that was very interesting, and I started that, and then a year later, I basically had, like 50 like 5,300,
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's
so,
amazing.
yeah, I maybe I don't know, there's some people who like 10x, 20x, but, that's all you can do,
I
really.
know. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the people who I see where I follow a couple, and one gal in particular I'm thinking of. I
Mhm.
see her post, and she's like, I started writing on LinkedIn 14 months ago, and she's got like 70,000 followers.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
with all organic? Are you
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm a marketing dinosaur, and I couldn't even tell you how to do that. Like,
Yeah.
geez. But no, I think it's honestly like about 4,000 followers. And at the time I'm talking to you now
Mm-hmm.
at 5,800, that's a really
Yeah,
healthy audience size. And here's the thing too, like for anybody who's caught up in vanity metrics on social media, because everybody's like, look how many impressions I got and how many engagements. It's like, are people hitting you up that want to pay you for the thing that you do? Because if you
that's right.
don't, like, those vanity metrics are, if the vanity metrics are paying off, then sure, like, chase the thing that brings the leads that give you the money. But you're running a healthy solo business literally just off of using your content to sell you for you. And I think that's what people need to think about is every post you write and add to your library of content. Like I use an analytics software to show me I've written like 203 LinkedIn posts since this
What do
time
you
last
use?
year. Shield, which I really
Oh,
like.
okay.
Yeah,
I've been
Shield
using
Analytics. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've been using Authored Up because I got like a discount during like
Oh, nice.
like Thanksgiving, last year. Now I'm like waiting for like those discounts basically for any like software, you
I
know.
get it. I get
Yeah.
it. I've only heard great things about Offered Up. Actually, Yasmin Alik, who's like
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
huge on. So he was the first person I heard talk about it. I haven't tested it out, but
Oh,
I
okay.
really I mean, there's some great ones out there. I think Taplio is one that might have analytics and scheduling. They're doing some cool stuff. I do like Shield Analytics a lot, and then I have a
I've heard of it.
premium.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then I
Yeah.
also use LinkedIn Analytics, but. But
Nice.
going back to you for your clients, and just so I understand this too, so
And the
tell me about,
offer.
yeah, I was going to say, who's your target
Yeah.
audience? Because it sounds like startup founders is kind of in there. And then what is your offer like? What are you selling them? And kind of what are the pain points and challenges you're finding in the space for them? Like, are they like what they're missing in email?
Yeah. I Like, if I go back to that one guy I said that had, like, a pretty solid offer, and was juggling really, like, 20 clients, or maybe, like, 15 clients and making 20 to 30K a month,
The guy
that
from Georgetown who's ghostwriting, who you're talking
yes.
about? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I think about that, I asked him, like, halfway during this journey, so a couple months back, I asked him, like, "Hey, like, this whole solopreneur kind of Justin Welsh style that you have started with, like, are you continuing with that?" And he's like, he was in a lucky spot. So I just want to talk about offers quick that like the whole Justin Welsh, like, hey, create one, two, like 3-tier offer and it make it super simple and it's going to like and this is all you do. He's like pivoting away from that. And even him, he said that he's taken like a part-time ghostwriting at an agency and he's now writing like books for like one client. So I'm just saying that because his whole job of like writing just a tweet or a LinkedIn post is kind of a lot harder when all these founders are seeing that, oh, you can write a viral tweet from a $99 subscription, right? So I I am in so I realize, like, I'm in a spot where I'm not trying to go that route of the Justin Welsh, like, create some type of, like, one offer stream, which I did in the beginning,
Mhm.
where I was saying, "I'm going to price it per newsletter, and I'm going to just have an activation fee, and the activation fee is me just going to help you set up the email list, help you set up your social media so that you can get people into the email list, set up a lead magnet to help entice people to get into that email list, the segmentation, like what it's all about, right?"
Mhm. Mhm.
So I like have been offering that as a like a service because I love newsletters, but something that I'm trying to offer right now is not just newsletters but also email marketing.
Mhm.
And so my target client actually now, and if I say, like, if I tell anyone how to find your target client, it's just like put yourself out there and see what sticks. Like, who are you
Mhm.
really working with? And
Mhm.
so my target client just happens to be coaches and agency owners. Those are the
Mhm.
people that are basically like paying me
Mhm.
is coaches and agency founders owners. And so these are two types of people who lean heavily into their personal brand.
Mm.
because they have like scaled their agency, or they have to talk to people in their like B2C coaching business. So these are the two people that I like to connect with because I'm helping them build their personal brand, connect with their audience in some type of way.
That's
And what
awesome.
yeah, and what I recognize is that it's not it's not like 2 years ago, where 2 years ago you could say, "I will write 12 to 15 tweets, for $2,000 or something," which, that's, like, about what that person was charging, by the way.
Mhm.
And doing pretty well at that. It's not really about that anymore unless you have like a history of working with people who already trust you. Since I'm so new in this and I'm starting out January 1st when AI is a thing and we've got ChatGPT 5 now, you need to differentiate yourself in some type of way. And so there needs to be a human component because if you don't sell yourself as the human in between the AI system, because let's be honest, like we have to use AI no matter what. I know you're using it.
All the
And
time.
yes, and we talked about using Claude and like training a
Mhm.
Claude project, and I am experimenting with it to know what I want it to work on with me and what I don't. And I have recently learned quite a bit of interesting legal information about like using AI and the importance of starting out writing yourself first and then ask AI to edit it. Because if you do the opposite, if you just prompt, because I have seen some people, a lot of people have gone viral from saying like, use this prompt to write your script or whatever. Use this prompt. Use this prompt. If you do that, you actually don't own it.
Mhm.
And so there's some legal repercussions that could happen where
Mhm.
people are even where for an example, one of the like lawyers that I follow, like AI content lawyers that I follow, I heard him speak in a at a conference that I recently attended. It was called Creator Hub Live, and he shared that creators are being sued because and they because they do not own their content if they are prompting AI to write a script in a certain way, or they find out that the logo that they made from logo.ai actually they do not own. It is actually in like logo.ai's like terms of service that you do not own this logo.
Mhm.
So I think, and so what I found was that you can only own it if a human first creates it,
Mhm.
and then you ask AI to edit it. But you
Mhm.
have to create it. So if you say edit the Mona Lisa with like like a funny big nose or something, you don't own it because you didn't paint the Mona Lisa.
Mhm.
But if you paint a painting and then you tell AI to update the painting in a certain style or in the writing sense.
Yeah.
So in writing, so just like if you create a piece of art and then you ask it to edit it, you're the one who created it, so that's okay. But and the same with writing. So if you draft a script and then ask it to elaborate, ask it to then use the prompt basically to formalize it. That is going to still be owned by you. So these are some concepts that I'm learning about AI. And I'm going back and forth between using it for my writing, not using it. It has helped, and I have generated some like more viral posts from using AI, but it's not necessarily true. I think it really depends, and I think like we are still trying to find like that golden opportunity of like how can we like completely structure automate all of our content, it's going to be amazing.
Mhm.
But I think you posted this and I also saw this. ChatGPT had a head of content that they're paying like $300,000.
Yes.
So like ChatGPT cannot create all of your content.
100%. And I think that's so important for people to remember in this is like, early on, people were like, AI is going to replace writers and marketers and
Hmm.
salespeople, and now it's going to replace coders, it's going to replace everybody. It's like, It might replace a lot of people eventually. It probably will replace. I'm getting more and more. It's going to replace a lot of us eventually. Like, or even early
Yeah.
testing is showing like one person with a ChatGPT account can do the work of 2 people. And if you do the math, that halves your W-2s in the workforce. And like that, I think that's just an inevitability. But like you said, I mean, when OpenAI posted that they're going to pay like almost like it was like $300,000 to $390,000
Wow. Yeah.
for a content marketing person, it's like I'm just going to send that screenshot to any new lead I get through work. If they're like, well, let's just have ChatGPT, it'll handle our
Yeah,
content
that's
and
a
our
great.
SEO for us. I was like, hey. Look at what the AI company is doing. They're
Yeah.
still hiring a writer and a content marketer. And look how many times SEO is in this job title. It's so wild. But like, I think you're right. I think a lot of these gray areas will pan out eventually of like, hey, if it's your idea, but the AI wrote it, or like me, I use the speech to
Mm,
text all the time. Like
yeah.
I'll just ramble off like a lot of ideas and things I have. And I'm like, okay, just like structure this. And you know how I like to write, just like put it together. And I'll edit it kind of like by voice too a lot of times, just because like talking's can be faster and more natural than
That's
writing.
how I do it is yeah, recording, and I created it like an AI automation that actually is connected to my like iPhone shortcut where I can press a button and it'll start recording and then it'll use like ChatGPT's Whisper AI to translate it into text because apparently that's different than, just a voice recording, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then it sends it to Slack where I was thinking about making it more of a like send to Claude and then use these parameters of like the context of like the types of how I write. But I never ended up like doing it like that. I'm still trying to figure out how to structure my own content as I work with clients. And so to your question about my offer, um, I think I am still, of course, like figuring it out. So when I talked about that Georgetown guy who was making this much money and has a very solid specific offer, um, he is not doing that specific offer anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a lot of it is much more commoditized,
Mm-hmm.
and so what I realized is I just need to experiment as much as I can to make something that is going to be more me
Mm-hmm.
than like necessary of like anyone else. So that's why writing on LinkedIn and writing on or just like taking videos of yourself on TikTok as we were speaking about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself out there is going to be the last and the most important thing that you're going to want to do. And I say last because you're not going to want to do it. It's hard. It's not going to be easy. You're putting yourself out there. It's not going to be perfect, but it is going to be necessary because the last thing that AI cannot take is you.
Mm-hmm.
You own yourself as the IP. And so your face, your work is always going to be owned by you. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just a matter of time of like selling people on who you are. And to sell people on who you are, I think the people who do this best are not always selling themselves, but they're just telling people who they are and they're giving stories about how they work with clients that makes people reach out more.
Mm-hmm. You're
So
totally right. Oh yeah,
yeah.
go for it. Go for it. This is great.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that like I'm 9 months into this business and I am grateful to say that I am now making as much money as I was 2 years ago, and so that is a great, like, feeling for myself, but I just wanna say that I'm still trying to myself to understand, like, what is the concept of this business that I'm making long term. And so I've been trying a lot of different things because that's just the nature of who I am. I wanted to try cold outreach, so I did instantly cold outreach for 2 months. I realized, you know what? I'd have to really hire someone to know this. It's not my jam. And then I just realized, I've built up this LinkedIn audience, so it's every single moment is just kind of like another let me try this thing. Ah, yeah, I should just continue writing on LinkedIn and I should continue building my personal brand and so that's what it really comes back to is just to find what sticks. And for some people, ads, they stick. And some people are great at cold email. And usually maybe those people are selling cold email services. So whatever like service that you're starting off with, if you're starting like a side business or even consulting business, coaching as well. I actually took on a coaching client where I'm coaching her on her community building, which is really exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, and she has a YouTube following over 70,000 followers. So she
Dang.
has an amazing following and she has this community, but she just doesn't know how to run it, I guess. She says she's an introvert. And I did the community thing I told you about at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of this call, at the beginning of this podcast. I did that a year ago and I just simply reached out to her like, hey, just checking how are things going. And she just said, oh, you reached out at the perfect time. So a lot of the work, a lot of the people that I have that I'm working with that are paying me have either just reached out to me immediately to say I want to work with you, or I've reached out to them to just like have another conversation like how's it going, and they connect the dots with, oh yeah, you're good at this, so why don't I ask you like how much would you charge for this? And
Mm-hmm.
that's just like the tumbleweed like effect of like of starting a business online.
It's amazing, honestly. Like I hope people go back and re-listen to especially this part of the show because you said so many important things. One, you replaced income from your day job in 2 years. That's awesome. Like, I think there are a lot of people listening to this that would be like, if I could get there in 2 years, I would so much rather like work for myself and work with clients than do this. And the other thing, and I'm so glad you touched on this because I had this in my questions to ask you, is the percentage that of your leads in business that were generated from your own content versus like cold outbound or advertising or things like that. And you brought up something that I'm a believer in, which is like generate warm leads with your own content and by just being a nice person. Like
Yes.
I try
It's
to
crazy.
send, yeah, it's such a novel concept. Like, so I used to be I've worked in marketing my entire career, but I also had a personal training certification that I had for like
Mm,
over a decade. And so I would do
yeah.
that in the evenings at gyms. And when you become the fitness nerd in your friend group or whatever, it's the same thing that you mentioned about like your mom's finance guy knows that you're a writer. I just get texts out of the blue of like, hey, Jack, my mom really wants to like lose some weight and she just like put
Oh,
on some holiday pounds. Can you help her out? And I would talk to them and I'd be like, yeah, I'll just give her the friends and family discount and she can Venmo me and I'd love to help her. But what you just said is so
yeah.
important of like, you've got this library of content and all these incredible posts. And we didn't even get into your writing style on this call. And I want to get into that on the next one because you've really developed like your own universe
Really.
around your brand. And you've done such an incredible job at it.
It's that makes me feel so happy that
You
to hear you
have.
say that. I
You
think
ha-
it is because of my journaling, like
Mhm,
that's just it's just like I took a lot of time in my youth of like being very sad, as I mentioned,
mhm,
going through depression and trying to write my way out of like figuring out my life during a really dark time because my parents got divorced and I'm an only child. And so I tried to figure that out through writing. And so writing has always been there for me because I am like there for myself. And, in the very end, you are the only person that's left, right? For you, right? Is like the thoughts in your head, what you're saying to yourself. And I'd love to really leave the audience with that because it's not easy, when especially when you're trying to create your own business or trying to create a side hustle and you're trying to figure it out. I'm actually getting back into writing daily, not 3 pages a day, just 1 page a day, but it is but there are no rules. That's another thing. There are no rules for what you should write about. You don't need to watch another YouTube video or listen to me say, "Hey, just write about how your day's going to be," or write about how you're grateful for yesterday, or write about just write anything that is on your mind, and that is the content that you will create for your business in the future. And that is going to just help anyone so much if they want to start a side job or if they want to start this as maybe their potential full-time opportunity. is to be your own marketing, and the way to do that is to lean into who you are, and the way to do that is to write to yourself.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Everybody who's listening to that, go back and re-listen to that section too. Right? Put yourself out there. People will recognize what you're doing. It doesn't matter what niche it is or like what you're writing about. People will see that you are good at writing and they will reach out to you from all different kinds of industries to have you do that for them. And Lauren, we're going to have you back on to talk about using journaling and writing to work through
Hmm.
the tough points in your life. Because I think
Yeah.
that's everybody wants to talk about the monetary benefits, and one thing I want to do on this show
Mm.
too is talk about the non-monetary benefits, like self-improvement, like working through depression, anxiety, hard pockets in life. We all hit them, and like how to use that as a skill. But I do want to be conscious of your time, and I really appreciate you sharing everything from the personal aspects of your writing, your journey that you've gone on with it in your personal life, how that's translated in your career, and all of the amazing actionable tips and advice that you've shared with everybody here today. Do you have any quick party notes before we sign off here?
Yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn, obviously. And you can find me, Lauren Gibson. I hope, Jack, you'll link my LinkedIn maybe in the comments or wherever this will go. And
Absolutely.
then I'd love actually to promote my own newsletter, which is called Connection. So you can subscribe to that at newsletter.joinconnections.co. And that newsletter is trying to help promote people to find the connections inside themselves and with other people to help grow their content and their community.
I love it. Everybody who just heard it, go follow Lauren on LinkedIn. Her writing is incredible. The business she's building is awesome. The newsletter is great. Please don't miss out on that. And Lauren, I can't wait to check in here in a few months and see how things are going with the business and her writing in general. Thanks for coming on today.
I can't wait for that too. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks,
Ciao.
Lauren. See ya. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of It Pays to Write. If you enjoyed this show, please be sure to like and subscribe on all the platforms we're on, currently on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Substack. And I've got something extra special for you listeners of this episode today. If you're thinking about taking the plunge with writing, I have a free 5-day email course that'll get you started with AI and digital writing online, whether you want to start your own blog or if you want to write on LinkedIn or another social media platform. This is a free course just for you to dip your toes into writing online. You can get that course for free by signing up at aiwritingroadmap.com. That's aiwritingroadmap.com. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next episode.